using Lexapro for anxiety or using Lexapro for social anxiety. This is what we are going to talk about today, so stay with me to the end because there are some important things to learn here. But first a disclaimer.
This video is not a recommendation whether or not my viewers should be using Lexapro for anxiety. I will simply share my own experience. The video is not medical advice. If you need medical advice, please see your doctor.
Scandinavian Bob here, hi. As a former anxiety sufferer myself, my goal with this channel is to make hundreds of videos with all kinds of tools and tricks on how to cope with anxiety. So if anxiety is something that you struggle with, consider subscribing, click on the little bell icon and let's get going. As some of you may know, I no longer really suffer from anxiety, but back when I did, I tried everything, and I do mean everything. And so I also tried using Lexapro for social anxiety. Lexapro or Escitalopram is a prescription drug that goes under the SSRI category, which is short for selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And the idea there is that by blocking the reuptake of the lingering serotonin around the synapses, we are left with more serotonin. Okay, so what did it do for me? Well, let's start with Lexapro for social anxiety. Unfortunately, I have to say I did not find Lexapro to be really helpful for my social anxiety. It was still helpful in that it did lower my worry and anxiety in general to some degree before going to an event where I used to be anxious. But then when I was in the midst of that event, I was always almost as anxious as I was before I started taking the Lexapro. I was still there with my shaky hands, fear of blushing and all those fun things. So I will give the Lexapro a 2 out of 10 in this department. But let's keep going. Lexapro for generalized anxiety. As I already alluded to above, Lexapro did indeed work pretty well for generalized anxiety for me, meaning it did dial down my worrisome thoughts. I was less anxious at home and I had less anxiety about what might happen, for example, tomorrow at work or in the future in general. So yeah, for me Lexapro did work pretty well for generalized anxiety. I'll give it a score of 7 out of 10 here. Lexapro for anxiety attacks. Back in the day I was also blessed with having horrible panic attacks. Yep, I had it all. Anyway, so does Lexapro work for panic attacks? Well, for me it did not at all. In fact, I have to give it a score of 0 out of 10 here. So for me, Lexapro reduced anxiety in general, but not my social anxiety. I was still highly anxious when eating and drinking in front of people, which has always been a big fear of mine, for example, and it did absolutely nothing for my panic attacks. However, I did find that it stabilized my mood a bit, and I was having less deep dips, and also it did increase my general self-esteem a bit, so that was a couple of other good things right there. But then it also made me gain weight pretty significantly. However, I did discover after some tweaking and messing around with my body how to get around that with a bit of hacking my biology. But that will be a subject for a future video, so if you're interested in how to not gain weight while on antidepressants, you might want to consider subscribing for that one. Okay, so that was my experience with Lexapro for anxiety, and I hope you found it informative in some ways. And oh guys, check this out. I have written a book called Discover Anxiety Solutions, From Anxious to Warrior. And it's a book full of natural tools and tricks on how to reduce anxiety, overcome shyness, and become your most badass self. And I would like to give that book away for free. That's right, it's 80 pages full of helpful tips and tools, and you can download it 100% free by clicking the link under this video where it says ebook. Now these are all tools that I have discovered during my own journey when learning how to cope with anxiety and shyness. And I wish I had that book 25 years ago when I was starting to develop anxiety problems myself, as it would have saved me from so much pain. Anyway, just click the link where it says ebook and download it 100% free of charge. Alright, that's it for today. Consider subscribing for more tools and tricks on how to cope with anxiety, and I will be back with a lot more. This is Scandinavian Bob signing out for today, and remember, Just keep discovering more tools and tricks and never ever give up. If you're going through hell, keep going.